Hello everyone, my name is Natalie Visk and I'm here to share my healing journey with you. Not because it's something special or extraordinary, it's really quite ordinary and I feel like a lot of people can relate to it. And that's why I want to share it, because I feel like a lot of people that have kind of the average ordinary story don't maybe feel like they have a space to share their deep hurts because they hear other people's really big stories and feel like, well, I should just be grateful for what I have. And the truth is that mentality leaves us stuck and it can lead to a lot of problems along down the road because we don't ever fully deal with them and we end up minimizing our hurt and pain and not giving ourselves the attention and love that we deserve. So here on this platform, I'm going to kind of share my story and go through kind of what got me here. And I'm also going to be sharing a lot of tools that I've found and discovered along the way. Some tools I've found years before I started this journey and kind of got reintroduced to them. I was able to utilize those tools that helped me. I was able to learn so much more about myself and kind of grow into the person I am today. I will say that the reason I'm doing this and I'm out here is not necessarily something that I feel comfortable with or something that I would have necessarily chose on my own. I will say I definitely feel a prompting from the Lord, and what you'll hear through my content is that it is a faith-based content, and I might not explicitly, use God or the Bible or verses or whatever in my daily explanation, but the foundation and the underlying current of all of it will be the Lord guiding me and directing me throughout all of my journey and all of the different places I have been. And so this is me simply hearing the Lord tell me, you just need to start sharing. And I do feel it's a place for me to practice using my voice that I have not used in a long time. And you'll notice too that sometimes it's really hard for me to articulate. And I will say, I honestly think it's from working remote and the pandemic and not having a lot of people to talk to on my day-to-day life. And that sounds sad, but we'll get into that a little bit more as I continue to share my story with you. But that's where I'm at. I'm here to try and be obedient and see where it leads. So thank you for showing up and joining me. I'm really excited to just share everything, mostly because it's just something I haven't been able to share with anyone. And this stuff excites me. I'm a little bit of a nerd about it, and I just can't wait to just start the conversation with other people. So a little bit of my backstory. I'll start, not my whole life story, but basically what led me to this journey. My whole entire life fell apart. I was a pastor's wife, and my husband was living kind of a life of deception and keeping back lies, and they all caught up to him, and he ended up getting fired from his position as lead pastor and church planter of our church. It's kind of crazy because he was already stepping down, and that was essentially because of the lies he was holding, but he at the time didn't even put those two together because he had learned to separate them so well in his life. So we'll dive deeper into that a little later, but that's just kind of the context there. When he got fired, we lost everything. We lost both of our jobs because I was working for the church, though I knew it was time for me to step down since we were already planning our exit. We were both, without income, a job, our church family to support us. We fractured our relationships, our friendships within the church and with family members that were a part of the church. And it was really hard. We literally lost everything in one afternoon, and having to reconcile that was all because of my husband was really hard. A few months later, we eventually, lost our home because we had no income, and we moved in with my family. And then through that time, we actually, the pandemic hit. It was 2019, late 2019, when we actually moved into my family's house, and then 2020 was the pandemic. I got my first full-time job after becoming a mom in December of 2019, and then moved to remote work. And there was so many stressors and things going back. Let me pause right now from the timeline and just kind of go back through like what I was dealing with, just so you can get a picture of, I wasn't, the, bomb didn't drop, and I wasn't like starting my healing journey right away. I was in survival mode, and I went into fawn and fight, I would say. And I was just really just trying to do anything to keep us all together, and just making it through this hard time. Through that, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety because my body couldn't hold it together anymore. And I started noticing that when my friends would reach out to me from our old church, we had to talk about what happened. And that was really hard, because at first I felt like I wasn't allowed to talk about what happened, because the leadership kind of asked us to, refrain from discussing it, and that they would help the congregation through the hard times. And so I was at first afraid to talk about what I was experiencing to my closest friends. And then I eventually shared with them. And it was honestly really heartbreaking, because they were also dealing with having to heal from their church home exploding, and reconciling the fact that, hey, my pastor stood up and talked about grace and vulnerability and honesty, and we've shared our deepest hurts and pains and mess ups with him as well, and he didn't feel safe enough to do that with us. Why? And so I noticed that the questions they were having, though they were valid, they were leaning on me for answers, and I needed help, and I needed healing. And because of my personality, I was trying everything to meet them where they were and understand their hurt and pain, and walk alongside their struggles, thinking that we could maybe heal together. But as I kept doing that, my body in the background was like, no, this is definitely not the right way to go about it. This is not healthy for you. This is making it harder for you. And so my body just slowly started to deteriorate with the anxiety. I would get sick a lot. I would get really shaky, really weak and fatigued. When the pandemic hit, things got really hard, and I reached a breaking point when I got physically ill one night because of all of the stress. And that kind of led me towards getting on anxiety medication for the things that I was experiencing. We tried to start healing with doing couples therapy and individual therapy, but honestly, trying to do therapy over Zoom in your old bedroom with your parents down the hallway was kind of hard. So that didn't really last very long. And so we eventually, started gaining some stability, starting watching church online, and we found a church that we really enjoyed. And in that season, we were finally at a place where we started to have a little bit of a savings and could kind of say, okay, we can move out now. Where do we move? What do we do? And we were feeling actually called to start somewhere fresh and new. And at first we were kind of looking at places that were like, where's the cheapest you can live? Which state can we live with the lowest cost of living? And then we realized, why are we doing that when we've been watching a church online that's meeting us where we need to be met right now? What if we just move there? And that's kind of what brought us to the Pacific Northwest. And that is what really started our healing journey. When we were able to be out on our own, have time alone, and to, actually meet with therapists and find a church community to plug into. And I was able to get into a group called Living Waters, which is a recovery group for people that deal with a bunch of different things. I won't get into that here. And find a group of women that were able to help walk me through some really hard times. And it really, really started pulling at threads. And what I realized when I started to actually try to heal from the damage done was that I actually didn't just need to heal from a fractured marriage and financial duress, but I actually had a lot of other issues that I needed to confront, a lot of self-worth issues, a lot of lies that I had carried with me since childhood, and even understanding what it looked like of certain things to be passed down generationally. And so I was able to look those in the eye and really take a step back and see the thread of where the little fractures, the hairline fractures that had consumed my body, that I could actually heal. And to be honest with you, my husband and I, we didn't do a lot of like marriage counseling. What actually ended up helping us was we worked on ourselves first and foremost, and then we would come together and really talk about those things and share what we had learned about ourselves and how to see each other in different lights, and really have compassion and patience for each other in those seasons. So I'm really excited to dive deep in. I'm going to pause this, stop this video here now, and get into the other things in our next video. Thank you so much for joining me.